Hello everyone and welcome to another enrichment tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a flexible moulded rope. So as you can see, it holds its shape and you can also twist it into any other shape that you might like. It's a relatively simple tutorial. You will need, I believe this is 20mm rope, and this is manila. And you'll need some, if I can get it out, fencing wire as well. This is 2mm fencing wire. You don't want the high tensile stuff, because if you get that you can't really bend it and it kind of defeats the whole point. When you're picking your rope, you also want to make sure that you're picking a rope which can be unlaid and relaid relatively easily, so it holds its shape. So manila is really good for that. Size was very good for that. I wouldn't necessarily want to try this for things like cotton rope, because it's just far softer and it loses its shape a lot more quickly. But we'll get started. First thing you need to do is you need to obviously decide how long you want your rope item to be. So that is dictated by how much wire you use. So first things first, we'll get out a nice length of wire to make this. Try not to stab yourself in the eye, it does happen on occasion. And then we're going to cut it. And I use fencing pliers. I find they're really useful, and I've not really come across anything better for cutting fencing wire. Surprisingly enough, fencing pliers is good for cutting fencing wire, but you can do it with a pair of pliers or something like that. It just takes a bit more effort. Okay, so that's our wire cut. So that is going to be the length of our item. Now we're going to find the end of our rope. I've already seized the ends of the 3 strands, but doesn't really matter. And we're just going to measure it. So we're going to hold it, and then we're going to run our hands along it until we get roughly the right amount, and then we're going to mark it. So I'm just going to put a little constrictor knot on it so that I know roughly where to unlay it, and because I'm going to splice the ends, I'm going to run a little bit further on as well. So I'm just going to get a bit of twine, very quickly do a constrictor knot. And I'm going to do a second one as well, just so that I can cut in between the middle of it. Makes things a little bit simpler and stops the rope unravelling once I'm done with it. At the moment I'm just trying to reduce the amount of general waste plastic that I use day to day, so I've stopped using electrical tape wherever I can. But electrical tape works very well, as is any kind of tape, sellotape, masking tape, anything like that. But twine is not very expensive, and it works just as well. So now that we've got the size that we need it, we're going to cut it. Helps if I know where my knife is. Okay, so now we have our length of rope, which is long enough for what we want. And now we're going to unreeve it. So we're going to pull these 3 strands apart all the way down to the bottom. And this is what takes the amount of time, is reeving and unreeving. Okay, so now that we've unreeved our rope all the way down to the end, we're going to take the end of our wire, we're going to put it in, if I can, there we go, and now we're going to reeve it back around the wire. Not like that. If you're doing a very short piece, you can just try and slide it down the core but I find that it's more hassle than it's worth, in my opinion. And you'll also see that the rope is kinked. It has directions that it wants to twist in, and you just want to follow those directions. Again, much like the unreeving, the reeving takes a long time. So you just have to keep going at it and work your way up. But as you can see, it's starting to go back to a normal rope, and you want to keep it relatively tight while maintaining the folds and the lays that the rope itself wants. So we're nearly halfway here, and as you can see, it's looking much like a regular rope again, except obviously it now bends and will maintain its shape. So we'll carry on and we'll finish it up. Okay, so we've now completely covered up the wire, and what we can now do is we can now splice it back in. So this isn't, you don't need to do this, but you're going to need to seize the ends in some way to prevent it unreeving again. So we're going to bend this into an eye, like so. But you want to make sure that it's not too sharp a bend, because otherwise you will wind up with the wire sticking out. Like that should do it, and then I'm going to splice that back in. And there you have it. So I'll just put an eye splice on this end. This end I'll just put a little whipping on. Don't use whippings for things like primates and stuff like that, things that might pick at it and take it apart. But for animals which aren't necessarily going to be picking away at it, a whipping is a really nice way to finish a piece of rope. But yeah, you can bend it. I could have put an eye splice on either end, and you could have used it as a walkway, or something like that. But it would bend. It's just quite a nifty little technique to get a little bit more out of your rope. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you all again soon.